There is a quiet kind of pain nobody talks about. The pain of always being needed, but never being wanted. You answer every call. You fix every problem. You stay when everyone else leaves. And it feels like love. But what if it is not love? What if you are just useful? This story will make you rethink every relationship you have ever held on to. In a small village between two mountains lived a woman named Elara. She was not rich. She was not famous. But everyone knew her name because everyone needed her. A sick child? Call Elara. A broken fence before the rain? Elara will fix it. A widow with no firewood in winter? Elara will carry it up the hill on her own back. She gave and gave and gave, and the village smiled and took and took and took. Nobody ever asked Elara one simple question: "Are you okay?" Not once. Not in 27 years. Her hands were cracked. Her back ached every morning. But she kept going because she believed something dangerous. She believed that if she stopped giving, she would stop being loved. Then, one autumn night, a blind old woman arrived at the village gate. She knocked on every door. Every door closed, except one, Elara's. She gave the old woman warm bread and a place beside the fire. They sat in silence for a long time. Then the blind woman turned her head slowly toward Elara and said 6 words, just 6. And Elara's hands began to tremble. What did the blind woman say? And why did those 6 words destroy everything Elara believed about herself? The blind woman did not raise her voice. She did not whisper either. She spoke the way truth speaks, calm, steady, impossible to ignore. She said, "Who carries you when you fall?" Elara opened her mouth. No words came out. She searched her mind, every memory, every face, every name in the village she had served for 27 years, and she found no one. Not one person had ever carried her. Not one person had ever sat beside her fire and asked about her pain. She had fallen many times. When her father died, she grieved alone. When the harvest failed and she starved for weeks, no one brought her bread. The same bread she had given 100 times. The blind woman nodded slowly as if she could see the answer on Elara's face. Then she reached into her small leather bag and pulled out a seed. A tiny dark seed no bigger than a teardrop. She placed it in Elara's palm and said, "Plant this in the place where you feel most alone." Elara almost laughed. A seed? What could a seed possibly change? But something in the old woman's voice made her hold it tightly. The next morning, the blind woman was gone. No footprints. No trail. As if she had never existed. Elara looked at the seed in her hand for a long time. Then she walked to the only place that felt right. The small hill behind her house, where she sat alone every night. She buried the seed in the cold earth and walked away. 3 days later, something impossible happened. Something that made the entire village stop and stare. Something that should not have been possible in autumn. What grew from that seed? And why did it make Elara realize she had been living a lie her entire life? A tree. In the middle of autumn, when every leaf in the village was dying, a tree grew overnight on that small hill. Tall, strong, full of green leaves that glowed like emeralds under the sun. The village had never seen anything like it. People came running. They stood around the tree with wide eyes and open mouths. And then, they did what they always did. They started taking. Men pulled branches for firewood. Women plucked leaves for medicine. Children carved their names into the trunk. Everyone took something. Nobody asked where it came from. Nobody thanked the soil that held it. Elara watched from her doorstep. And for the first time in her life, she did not see a tree. She saw herself. She was that tree. She had always been that tree, growing in a place nobody cared about, giving shade to people who would cut her down without thinking twice. And the more she gave, the more they took. Not because they were evil, but because she never taught them where to stop. That evening, Elara did something the village never expected. She walked to the tree. She knelt beside it, and she built a small fence around it with her own hands. Not to keep people out, but to teach them that even the things that give need protection. Then she stood up and spoke for the first time in front of the whole village. Her voice was shaking, but her words were steady. She said, I have loved all of you with everything I had. But from today, I am keeping something for myself. Nobody clapped. Nobody cheered. Some people were angry. Some walked away. But for the first time in 27 years, Elara slept through the entire night. No whispered words in the dark. No heavy chest. Just peace. The blind woman was right. The seed was never about growing a tree. It was about growing a boundary. And boundaries are not walls. They are not selfish. They are the difference between being loved and being emptied. So let me ask you what the blind woman asked Elara. Who carries you when you fall? If no name comes to mind, maybe it is time to build your own fence, not to shut the world out, but to finally let yourself in. If this story touched something inside you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And remember, choosing yourself is not selfish. It is survival.